Welcome to the YouTube channel of Instituto Cervantes, Manchester and Leeds. My name is Pedro Eusebio. I am the director of the Cervantes in Manchester and Leeds. First of all, as usual, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to our guests, the coordinators of the program, Professor Idoia Elola and Professor Anna Oskoz. Also, the special guests tonight, Gorka Elordieta and Magdalena Romera. The series Acquiring a Second Language, Why We Find It So Difficult, as most of you already know, it's a forum aimed at the parents, students, and language students, the general public, on which we are being analyzing and considering how we learn a second language or a heritage language, how important also is the bilingualism and the presence of different languages in every society. And in this sense, the participants will discuss the various elements and the difficulties that come with the second language acquisition, the myths and the realities surrounding this matter, and also to contribute to clarify some aspects, not only from an academic point of view, but also because it's the aim of this series to share the research, but we could say in a more familiar, easiest way, so it can be widespread the knowledge to the general public and the community. So tonight we have the fourth event of this year, 2024. And the title of the lecture, it would be The Effect of Linguistic Attitudes on the Adoption of Features Between Varieties in Contact. The speakers, Gorka Elordieta and Magdalena Romera, they will analyze the implications of this contact that is it's obvious that this is something that comes as something natural, and the different varieties, how they influence one to the other, and in different situations, how they are used, how they are perceived, how is the social prestige associated with this variation. So how that all those factors impact the varieties and how are they perceived by not only by the speakers, but also by the groups and the community and as a whole. By this subjective aspect, the speakers themselves will determine the course of evolution of languages and the linguistic varieties in contact by choosing to use them in various degrees. But before I give the floor to Professor Anna Oskoz, I will introduce Anna and Idoia. Idoia Elola is professor of Spanish and Applied Linguistics in the Department of Classical and Modern Languages and Literatures at the Texas Tech University. She is co-editor-in-chief of the journal System, and her research focuses primarily on digital second language writing, specifically on areas such as collaborative and individual writing using social tools, multiliteracies, feedback, and the use of multimodal text from cognitive and sociocultural perspectives. She also focuses on second language and heritage language learners' writing processes. Her work has been published nationally and internationally, and she's author and she has co-edited 2 books: Current Theoretical and Applied Perspectives on Hispanic and Lusophone Linguistics with Diego Pascual Cabo, and Technology Across Writing, Contexts and Tasks with Greg Kressler and Oskoz. Her co-authored book, Digital Second Language Writing Literacies with Anna Oskoz, was published by Equinox Publishing. Dr. Ana Oskoz is professor of Spanish in the Department of Modern Languages, Linguistics, and Intercultural Communication at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, and she is also vice provost for Faculty Affairs. Dr. Oskoz is the co-editor of Calico Journal, the official publication of the Computer Assisted Language Instruction Consortium, which is devoted to the dissemination of information concerning the application of technology to language teaching and language learning. Her research focuses on the potential of social digital tools to contribute to learners' second language writing. She has examined collaborative and individual writing using social tools, multiliteracy, feedback, and the use of multimodal text. Dr. Scott's work has been published internationally, and she has co-edited 2 books, Technology Across Writing Contexts and Tasks with Leah Kressler and Idoia Elola, and Understanding Attitude in the Intercultural Visual Communication with Margarita Vinagre. She's also co-authored the book Digital Second Language Writing with Idoia Elola. They will introduce our special guests tonight, Gorka Elordieta and Magdalena Romera. But before giving the floor to Ana Oskoz, only to remind you that you are very welcome to put your questions and comments in our chat, and Ana and Idoia will later to put the questions to our guests. So, muchísimas gracias. Thank you for being with us once again. And without further ado, I give the floor to Ana Oskoz.
Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. We would like to welcome all of you for attending this presentation. And we also would like to thank the Instituto Cervantes Manchester and Leeds again for inviting us to participate in this and coordinate this series. The speaker for the 4th talk and the final talk of the 2024 series are Magdalena Romera Ciria and Gorka Elordieta Alcibar. We have invited to present together because both of them are very active researchers in their own area of expertise, but also come together to conduct research on the relationship between discourse and prosody in Spanish and Basque. But we are not going to present them together. We are going to go one by one. Magdalena Romera Ciria is associate professor in the area of Spanish language at the Universidad Pública de Navarra in Pamplona. Her areas of specialization are discourse analysis and sociolinguistics. Within her sociolinguistic line of research, Magdalena has studied aspects related to discourse and gender. As a member of the Asociación Estudios sobre Discurso and also as part of the Observatorio del Discurso, she has conducted participatory research on micromachismo, microracism, and linguistic discrimination. She has published in journals such as International Journal of Bilingualism, Discurso y Sociedad, and Porta Linguarum, International Journal of Foreign Language Teaching and Learning. And she has also, if that was not enough, she has also co-edited and co-authored 2 books.
So it's Gorka's turn. So Gorka Elordieta is a professor of linguistics in the Department of Linguistics and Basque Studies in the University of the Basque Country in Vitoria. Since 2019, he has been the principal investigator of the Theoretical Linguistics Research Group at the University of the Basque Country. His areas of specialization are phonology, specifically prosody, intonation, and the phonology syntax interface. He has co-edited 2 books, and his articles have appeared in journals such as Phonology, Language and Speech, Journal of the International Phonetic Association, and the Linguistic Review, as well as in volumes by Oxford University Press, Moulton de Gruyter, and John Benjamins, among other publishers.
We invited Magdalena and Gorka because they are the perfect example of a successful collaborative research team. The reality is that in our field, we tend to work more frequently collaboratively than individually. In Magdalena's and Gorka's case, this collaborative relationship, apart from personal since they are married to each other, has resulted in several research projects in which they have brought together their expertise to jointly look at the relationships between discourse and prosody in Spanish and Basque.
We have to say that the research is of great importance because they work on languages in contact, and their work is recognized nationally and internationally. One of the things that we admire is their professionalism and their willingness to work on challenging research areas. And my interaction with them, I can attest that apart from being exceptional researchers, they are caring people with brilliant sense of humor who have the ability to bring together diverse groups of people. So without further ado, Magdalena, I leave the floor to you.
Well, my goodness, I'm ashamed, Thank you very much. We want to thank you. We want to thank Instituto Cervantes for inviting us. Especially we want to thank Idoia, our hostess, for inviting us, Anna, Oskoz as well. And I'm not sure I deserve your introduction. I'm not sure, such a lovely, prestigious introduction. Thank you very much. We're very happy to be here at this lecture series, which is really, really interesting to us. And we are very honored actually to be here because although we don't do second language teaching or learning, we are very close to this field because we do applied linguistics, and everything that is related to bilingualism and multilingualism is really related to learning and acquire languages. So today we are going to present the work that we presented today revolves around an aspect that has received much attention lately in the field of applied linguistics, which is the research on language attitudes. Until now, probably many studies have focused on individual or more subjective aspects of how language is spoken, but lately language attitudes as a subjective and individual aspect of each person has come to mean a lot on the way we learn and on the way we speak languages. So our work deals with this aspect, and we're going to present what we're doing lately. So we're going to present something that is called, the relationship between individual aspects and how we speak, how we talk, especially how our perceptions and beliefs influence or have an influence on the way we finally speak or on the way we act linguistically. The title, if I may, I'm going to share my screen. I think it's, can you see my screen? Okay. As you said, okay. My colleague is Gorka Elordieta. You revealed a very important aspect of our lives, which is that we are married to each other. But we were together for a long time before being, a couple. We were working together in the same field, Gorka Elordieta and Magdalena Romera from the Public University of Navarra. We presented, as I said, the linguistic attitudes as a factor that affects the way we speak, we talk, especially in contexts where different languages get in contact. So geographical context where people are in contact with several languages in the daily life. So that's our field of research. Before going into what our work is dealing with, there is a first aspect that is very fundamental, is fundamental to our research, or probably to the research in social linguistics, which is language variation. The director of the Instituto Cervantes at Manchester just said it very clearly, and that's language variation. We understand by language variation something related to this. Please take a look at these two examples that I have here. Here we have two examples of something that we can hear in any context, probably. Something like me despierto temprano a la mañana o me despierto temprano por la mañana. Here we have a case of different use of prepositions. The preposition a, which it is not really translatable into English. It would be something like I wake up early at the morning, but we can say it in Spanish. We can say me despierto temprano a la mañana, but we can also say me despierto temprano por la mañana. So I wake up early for the morning or in the morning. So both of them would mean the same thing. But actually, we can say both, and all of us that are here, we can say that both of them are acceptable. I would say yes, they are acceptable and they are possible, and probably if one of them is easier for us or maybe more familiar to us, it's just a matter of frequency. So in our area, probably we use more a la mañana. In the northern Spain, we can hear a lot me despierto temprano a la mañana. But if we go down to the south, or maybe we go to Mexico or to other places, we can hear me despierto temprano por la mañana. And both of them are acceptable. This is what we call language variation. So language variation means something like different ways of saying the same thing. Actually, the meaning is the same. Here we do not have any different meanings. So both of them mean the same thing, but they have different expressions. So this is what we call language variation. And this is something that linguists for a long time, especially social linguists, have been trying to explain why we can say these two things. And are there specific reasons that can be related to this variation? Or is it a free variation? For a long time, this discussion whether there is free variation or there are reasons to say something like this, a la mañana or por la mañana. Variation in the prepositions exist in all languages. So for a long time, we've been discussing whether this is free variation or is random, or there are factors that influence this variation or correlate to this variation rather. So can we find a reason why we say a la mañana or why we say por la mañana? So some people, especially from the social part of linguistics, the language and society part, where I locate, we say that are social factors that actually influence the way we talk. Social factors that correlate, for a long time, probably from the 60s, from last century, all these theories have been put forward, and they have been very successful at explaining variation. So especially in social factors. Some of the social factors that we can argue that have an influence on variation are, for example, age. Age is one of the social factors that have been claimed to have an influence on variation. For example, younger people talk differently to adult people, to older people. Yeah, we know that there are differences regarding to age, Also, something that is called gender, of course. Gender and language is, it's a field with many works and papers and research that had been very influential in the field. Women speak different to men, or other groups. What is gender, and if gender influences the way we speak. Education. That's another social factor that has a lot of influence in the way we speak, People with lower level of education speak different from medium level education, educated, more educated people speak different. Yes, these have been issues or factors, social factors that have been put forward in order to explain variation. And finally, there's an issue, there is a factor that is called how many languages do you speak, we speak. If we speak several languages, or at least we are in contact with different languages, we are also capable or able to use different expressions at different times. Different expressions that may pertain or may be from other languages with which we are in contact. So, for example, if I'm in contact with Basque, when I speak Spanish, I may use some expressions from Basque, and vice versa. Some people who speak Basque may use some Spanish expressions. This is what we call language transfer. And these are factors that have been, as I said, have been put forward in order to explain variation. These are probably the most important ones. There are others, but these are the most important ones. There are as well other factors that are called subjective factors, as opposed to these previous factors that we can call them more objective factors. For example, age. Age is something that is not individual or individually changeable, interchangeable. I cannot objectively change my age. I would like to, I would like to take some years off, but unfortunately I cannot. My age is my age. It does not depend on my, if I today I feel more, I feel younger or I feel older. No, definitely my age is my age. In that respect, these aspects can be called objective factors, as opposed to subjective factors, which are probably more individually conditioned. Something like relation between groups, or the relationship we establish with other people. Those are conditions, those are characteristics that are different in each person. So I can establish very good relationships with some groups, groups that speak English, or groups that speak German, or groups that speak Basque, for example. So my relations are different than the relation that another person can establish. And the last factor that has also been put forward is language attitudes. How do we explain language attitudes? It's a very old term, and that comes especially from the social psychology field. It was put forward. It was coined in the psychology field, and then it jumped into the linguistic field and social field and sociology field. Language attitudes are evaluative beliefs, and evaluative beliefs and perceptions to language and to their speakers. It's not only beliefs and perceptions. I believe this is X or Y. No, it's evaluative. Evaluative because it comes with a judgment. It is better or it is worse. This language is nicer, this language is, I don't like it that much. So are evaluative in that respect. Many things, over the years from the 1930s onwards, we can find studies on language attitudes. For example, people may think that a language is simpler or more complex than another. For example, I can think that Chinese is a very complicated language to me in terms of structure, whereas Italian is an easier language to me. It's a simpler language to me. But as you can see, more complex or simpler is not really something that is objective. It's something really subjective. No, it is to me, because probably to me, Italian is easier or simpler because it's closer to my Spanish one language. Value, I like it better, or it is more pleasant. Oh, I like listening to, for example, Argentinian Spanish. I love Argentinian Spanish. Probably you've heard this, many of our students say, oh yes, I love Argentinian Spanish. Well, this is a perception, a belief about the language, or sounds, or how the language sounds. Does it sound soft? Does it sound strong or hard? For example, German to me sounds very hard, or Italian sounds very soft to me, or, well, these are subjective beliefs and perceptions about languages. Also, not only about languages, but about also the people that speak those languages. Because in reality, our perceptions over languages, about languages, come from our perception and our relationship with the people that speak those languages. For example, we may think, I'm going to move this a little bit, I'm sorry. We believe that probably a person that speaks a language like English, or like German, or like Chinese, whatever language you think, is more competent than another person that speaks, let's say, other language that I don't like. We have associated to languages and to speakers of those languages, we have associated some characteristics that are in fact social characteristics related to the prestige that the group and the language has in the society. So the status of the person that speaks a certain language, it may be competent or maybe not competent or maybe lazy. You know, we know many languages or many speakers of the language we can call, oh, he's lazy because he's from X or he's from another country. Also, here, solidarity. Solidarity, it's a characteristics, a quality of how I relate to those speakers. Can I be friend with those speakers? You know, I like them, or maybe I don't like them. I don't think I can never marry a person that speaks that language or that is from that group of speakers. All right. Okay. That also means language attitudes also mean all the beliefs that we have about languages and learning languages as well. For example, we can have a very positive attitude towards learning languages. In our research, we found speakers of Spanish and Basque that say something like hablar español, inglés, francés, alemán, italiano, japonés, lo que sea, todo lo que sea, aprender un idioma siempre es enriquecedor para la persona. I have here the translation, something like, excuse me, speaking Spanish, English, French, German, Italian, Japanese, whatever language, any language, learning a language is always an enrichment for the person. This is also an attitude towards languages. And this helps you to have more motivation to learn a language or less motivation to learn a language. We also have examples of people that say that they do not like learning languages because learning languages may be maybe not beneficial when you're learning other contents. So if you learn a language, you learn a language, but it may interfere in the learning of other contents. So we also know that the negative attitude towards learning languages exists. Coming closer to our research, what we do is linking language attitudes and linguistic behavior. So do language attitude have an influence on how we behave linguistically? So for example, we know that attitudes influence socially. Language discrimination can end up in language discrimination. For example, when we judge a person to be less prestigious or less competent or less or more informal because this person he or she speaks a language that we don't like. Also, it can influence language maintenance. It can be also a cause of language maintenance. If we have a very positive attitude towards my language, a minority language, they say, let's say, we can also try to speak that language as much as I can. So that contributes to the language maintenance. And also we have the consequence, as we said before, in language transfer. So if I like a language, I am more prone to transfer, to adapt expressions or traits or characteristics or features, linguistic features of those language into mine. Am I able to transfer more features if I'm more more favorite to this language? So this is our study. Our study has focused in the region that we call Basque Country, where Spanish and Basque are in contact. And we specifically wanted to research, to investigate whether linguistic language attitudes had an effect on how we speak Spanish. Do we transfer a lot of features from Basque? What features from Basque we transfer? Do those features correlate with more positive attitudes or less positive attitudes? Probably most of you that are here today, you know the Basque Country. The Basque Country is an area that is between Spain and France. It is called Basque Country, and I have here a couple of images of our nice Basque Country. You know, we have it's in the Cantabric Sea, and also we have, you know, very colorful fiestas like San Fermín. So it's a very nice place, I would say. Here I have a map. We have a map of the Basque Country, which is in the north of Spain. And Basque is spread in Biscay, which is, you know, an area of the Basque Country, also in Guipúzcoa, and also in the north of Navarra. In Spain, we have autonomous communities. Most of you know. I won't explain this, but the Basque Country is spread in the Basque Country community with Biscay, which is Biscay, Guipúzcoa, and Araba, and also is spread in another autonomous community, which is Navarra. So just very quickly to give you an idea of the status of the language in the Basque Country. These are data. We're going to present some data very quickly on the number of speakers that speak Basque and Spanish. Basque is the minority language and Spanish is the majority language. As you can see, you know, in Vizcaya, the green color represents the people that speak Basque fluently and understand and can write it and can read it. Then we have another category in orange, which is what we call passive bilingual speakers, which is speakers that can understand and probably can read, but don't have productive skills, which they cannot talk or they cannot write Basque, but they count as well because they can maintain a conversation in Basque, so they are countable as well. So and then the blue color represents the Spanish speakers, that's monolingual Spanish speakers. As you can see, Guipúzcoa, it's has the greatest percentage of Basque speakers, followed by Biscay, and then in Araba there are less speakers. Probably it's the lowest percentage of speakers of Basque. Next, we are going to present our work on how we transfer linguistic features into Spanish according to our attitudes. And I'll give the floor to my colleague, Dr. Elordieta, who's going to present this part of our work. Thank you.
So first of all, before I start, it's my turn to say thank you, of course, to the Instituto Cervantes for inviting us. The presentation by Ana and by Idoia was, was really nice, and I appreciate it very much. And so before I get into this thank you notes, let me move on and continue where Magdalena has left it. Okay, so basically the question is the following. I think we all know, at least in Spain, the Basque Spanish, there are different things called, these things called accents, right? You have a Basque accent, you have a Galician accent, speaking Spanish, you have an Andalusian accent, and so on, or a Catalan accent. So what is this? What's an accent? Okay, there are many things that can make you have an accent, such as the production of vowels or consonants, or also something called suprasegmental features. Okay, that's a very technical term, which means basically what it means is the melody, the intonation, okay? The intonation of a sentence. That can make you have an accent, okay? So for the purposes of our research, we decided to focus on intonation, basically because of my expertise in prosody and thinking that, okay, those things, the intonation can make somebody have an accent, definitely, as I said. And if we look at Basque Spanish, I think, look at this. I mean, look at all these comedians or imitators, right? I mean, when they want to imitate a Basque person speaking Spanish, I mean, it's funny, right? I mean, there's something, but people know or realize that that person is Basque, right? Okay. So, but which aspect of intonation can be there in you that makes you sound like a Basque person speaking Spanish? Okay. There are declarative questions, of course, and interrogative statements. So interrogative sentences and declarative sentences, they have different intonations. And in further work, I mean, actually ongoing work, which we're not going to mention here, we look at declarative sentences, but for the purposes of this presentation, we're going to focus on questions, okay? How do questions sound in Basque Spanish? Different from, let's say, Castilian Spanish, Castilian from, let's say, from La Rioja downwards, Madrid, for instance, okay? So speaking of yes, no questions, which are questions that you can answer with a yes, with a no, or maybe with I don't know, but these are called yes, no questions, such as in English, did John bring the book? In Spanish, ¿ha traído Juan el libro? Okay, how do you pronounce this in intonation? What's the intonation of these sentences? Okay, so here I brought our own data. This is Castilian Spanish, actually a female speaker from Madrid. And I guess you will realize this as a very like standard sounding, you know, Central Castilian. Yeah, you wouldn't know, maybe she's from Madrid or so, but you could say, okay, she's a Spanish from the, let's say, center of the country, maybe, okay? And let's hope that the sound works. And we tried and it worked. Maybe you will hear it very softly. And I apologize for that, but I don't know how to make it sound stronger.
¿Y te gusta el deporte?
Could you hear it? I mean, maybe you can nod. Okay, thank you. Thank you. I see somebody saying, yeah, Idoia, thank you. So in the red circle, let's say the red circumference, maybe, you see, even if, okay, let me go briefly over this. This is the sound wave, okay? And this is the sentence transcribed, y te gusta el deporte, okay? This is the glosses in, more or less glosses in English. This is the sentence, and this is the translation, do you like sports? And do you like sports? You heard it, and what I'm circling here is the rising final intonation, which sounded like it. I'm not going to imitate it. Let me play it again, because it's going to be different in the Basque Country. So my mouse sometimes disappears. Okay, here.
¿Y te gusta el deporte?
So did you hear this? Deporte, okay? Deporte going up. This is Basque Spanish. Okay, I could have played more from Madrid. We have plenty. We have many. We recorded several speakers pronouncing this kind of sentences. Oh, by the way, this is a spontaneous speech, not read speech. Okay, these were conversations. We recorded them naturally, let's say. And this is somebody from San Sebastian, female speaker as well, saying this, saying, pero nunca hablas en euskera. Okay, you will hear it. This is me pronouncing it, okay? But don't you ever speak in Basque? My mouse, come on. If you have used PowerPoint, you know that the mouse sometimes disappears from the presentation. Here. Now.
Pero nunca hablas en euskera. Pero nunca hablas en euskera.
So this time, maybe I hope you could hear that it doesn't sound like pero nunca hablas euskera, which will be the one we saw before. It's the pero nunca hablas euskera, okay? Pero nunca hablas euskera.
Pero nunca hablas en euskera.
Euskera.
Pero nunca hablas en euskera.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to go to the next slide. Okay, here. And this is a female speaker from Bilbao saying something like, ¿mantienes contacto con esa familia? Do you maintain contact with your family, with that family?
Pero nunca hablas en euskera.
Oops, what happened here?
Pero nunca hablas en euskera.
Oh, something weird happened. That's a shame. This is the one we saw, the one we heard, and this should have been ¿mantienes contacto con esa familia? If you see my mouse, it's doing familia. Oh, I don't know why it sounds the same thing. Okay, anyway, something got distorted in the transfer. ¿Mantienes contacto con esa familia? Familia, okay?
¿Pero nunca hablas en euskera?
No, come on.
Gure laguna berandu etorri da.
Okay, this is Basque. Okay, this is Basque. And you see, this is a yes-no question in Basque. And what I circled here was, again, this fall, this final fall. And if you could hear it,
Gure laguna berandu etorri da.
gure lagunda berandu etorrida. So first of all, the thing was, okay, so Basque Spanish sounds this way for yes-no questions. How come? Coincidence? That's the way it is. Don't ask me, no interest. Or where does it come from? Okay, so a plausible hypothesis is that it's coming from the abstract, the contact language called, which is Basque. Okay, it's a plausible hypothesis. Okay, so the goal is to explore whether prosody is a feature that is transferred from Basque. But basically, what we saw is what we plan to do is, first of all, do all speakers in the Basque Country sound this way? It's a legitimate question. So Basque speakers sound this way. Are you sure? 100%? 90? 95? 80? 77? Have you measured? No. Some of them, most of them. Okay. First of all, if you say most of them, some of them, many of them, typically, you're talking about variation. Okay. So who sounds this way? Who doesn't? First of all, do we have variation? Second, is there a way to respond to that verse, say, hey, maybe it responds to this and this and these social factors, such as the ones that Magda reviewed, age, gender, and level of education and attitudes. So what we did was the following. We got all this data from conversations with them, with these speakers, we have 36 speakers from Vizcaya, Gipuzkoa, and Navarra. And we recorded them in conversations, as I said, and with two goals. First of all, we got natural data from them that we could then analyze acoustically. But second, we got their attitudes towards things such as Basque, the Basque language, or the Basque ethno-linguistic group. Okay, that's the group of people who speak Basque. So we asked them questions such as, do you think that speaking Basque makes you look better or worse socially? What do you like better, listening to Basque or to Spanish? Or is Basque useful for you in your daily life? And many of them, many of you may think, well, what are they going to say? They're going to please you. Well, some people were, we trust them because some people were really like neutral. We will see some maybe, I don't think in order for, because we have the limits of time, I don't know if I brought the negative ones, but there were some saying like, well, Basque is not so important for my life and stuff like that. Okay, so we trust them and we think they were honest, because also because of their body gestures. We recorded them also in audio, in video also. Okay. Now the results. Well, at least in the cities of Bilbao and San Sebastian, there was a clear relation with speakers' attitudes. In what sense? People with better or with positive attitudes towards the Basque language and the Basque ethno-linguistic group, whether they were, and this is important, whether these people were monolingual Spanish or not. What I mean is the following. We found monolingual speakers, people who they weren't even passive bilinguals. They see signs in Basque, but they never went to school in Basque. They never learned the language, and they live in Bilbao, San Sebastian, where you don't need Basque to function. Well, some of these people had positive attitudes. Nevertheless, I would have liked to learn the language. I send my kids to Basque schools and stuff like that. I have many friends who speak Basque and so on. Okay, so these people with more positive attitudes showed to have a higher use of Basque-like intonation contours in yes/no questions. Okay, positive attitudes, and also importantly, even though it's not in this slide, the degree of contact with the Basque ethno-linguistic group. Namely, if you're a monolingual speaker, but in your factory, in your work, I mean, you have Basque-speaking people, and you are good friends with them, and you have a degree of contact with them, with these people. Maybe that's why you have positive attitudes. They are both correlated, the degree of contact and the attitudes. They should have a higher use of these falling like contours. Like, no, that kind of contours in yes, no questions. So that's a really nice correlation. Actually, it was pretty strong, very strong. Like statistically speaking, I think it was like 84. Okay, the 84%. That's really strong. So these people had a strong sense of belonging. They were Basque. I mean, they were part of the Basque Country. They knew about Basque group practices, the customs, the habits. A strong defense of the language. Sure, Basque should be taught. Yeah, I agree that there should be a bilingual, not only bilingual, let's say bilingual line of education, and also they knew that if there is something closely associated to the Basque identity, we can speak of these things, is the language. So the Basque language is really like this. It's the, how do you call it, patrimonio inmaterial, which is really much used lately, right? The immaterial treasure or value of this territory. So examples of there's here some examples, some excerpts of what they said, okay, to us in the recordings. So something like, a mí lo que me parece es que, there are no audios for this, okay? A mí lo que me parece es que es necesario para saber una manera de ser y conocer, okay? What seems to me is that Basque is necessary to understand a way of being and knowing. La educación en euskera debe ser obligatoria, porque si no, los derechos de la lengua minoritaria no están garantizados. Education in Basque should be mandatory, otherwise the rights of the minority language are not guaranteed. O es importante que los hijos aprendan euskera en la escuela para normalizar la situación. Es importante conocer los idiomas de la zona. So it's important that children learn Basque at school in order to normalize the situation. It's important to know the languages of the area. And so this is a monolingual speaker. Yo soy de aquí, he vivido toda la vida aquí, he nacido en Lekeitio, soy totalmente lekeitiano. Sí, me quedé aquí porque tengo mi vida aquí, no tengo intención de ir a ningún sitio. Aquí es donde mejor se vive. Tenemos de todo, río, playa, monte. Hay un orgullo de ser de aquí. Como el Lekeitio en ninguna parte. Paso por otros pueblos y como aquí en ninguno. Puedes hacer de todo aquí. And this is the translation. I'm not gonna, okay, I can read it. I'm from here. I have lived my whole life here. I was born in Lekeitio. I'm totally Lekeitian. Yes. I stay here because I have my life here. I don't intend to live anywhere else. This is where you live best. We have everything: river, beach, mountain. There is a pride in being from here. No place like Lekeitio. I see other towns and no place like here. You can do everything here. Okay. I think, Lekeitians are a little bit like that also, I should say. Okay, so I don't know how much time I took. I don't know if I went over time, but this is basically a glimpse of what we do. So we finish our presentation here with a thank you to all of you. Eskerrik asko in Basque, gracias. And we acknowledge certain funding, and public funding, and also, of course, our speakers, first of all. Without them, no research, nothing. If they don't want to talk to you, you are doomed. There's no research, right? No pay. Actually, we didn't pay them. We just said, sure, record me. Okay. And so thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Well, thank you, Magdalena and Gorka. This has been very, very interesting to hear. I was responding to the first two examples that Magdalena had. I don't know if someone has any questions, but I wanted to make a remark about something that you said, Magdalena, when you were talking about linguistic variation. One of the things that when you were talking about these two examples, you said both versions are acceptable. You didn't say one is right and the other one wasn't, but it's this perspective of of how we should be looking at language variation instead of judging that. So I thought that was very interesting and important, because this is a situation that is lived in many other places. I think that Ana and I live with this, with the Spanish and English, and I'm sure that other people in the audience have experienced the same situations with other languages. And so I think it's always our mission to be able to say, we have to talk about variation instead of trying to figure out the correct or incorrect use of the language. So I really appreciate that. Is this something that you encountered in your research? I mean, you were talking, Gorka, about the positives, but I also would like to know what the negatives could have, how they were affected, if they feel like really against this, in this case, the Basque language. Did you see anything in the intonation as well? I mean, there was some correlation that you felt?
Magdalena, do you want to respond, or do you want me to say something?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah?
Yes, please.
Okay. Yeah, since you asked about prosody, yeah, thank you, Idoia. That's the point. We prefer not to put any figures or any percentages, but let me briefly summarize that. Actually, you're absolutely right. The two sides of the coin, if you want, or the two extremes of the line. So people with more positive attitudes showed a higher percentage of use, let's say, a higher frequency of use of this kind of, not 100%. Some people, all their questions were like this, all of them, 100%, bum, 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 bum. Some of them people like 95. So maybe like one or two sentences could be finishing high, dun, 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 like the Madrid one we heard. So it's not like all of them sounded 100% like that. Now, people with less positive, let's say, neutral or cold, they were cold towards the whole story of the Basque ethno-linguistic group or the Basque language. Those were the people who, even though most of their yes/no questions ended in a fault, no, they had fewer of them, 60-something%, and 40-something, 30-something% in rising. So that's the interesting thing. So to summarize, our figures are the following. In Bilbao, San Sebastian, I'm not forgetting about the towns, but in Vitoria, here, thank you, Magdalena. So 79%, so we don't see but let me say the figures here. So 79% of the yes/no questions of the people from Bilbao and San Sebastian ended in a false. So most of the people sounded like this thing, el acento vasco, okay? So the Basque accent ending in a false. No. But there's room. There's this 21% of possible rising questions. Who were the ones that had the most of this? People with less favorable attitudes towards Basque. Here, so yeah, in the chart.
Yeah, in the chart.
You want to present the chart?
Yeah, probably, yes. What we did is we created an index, an attitudinal value for our speakers according to their responses to our questions. The three types of questions that we showed Gorka showed before. We actually gave them an index, more or less positive attitudes. Less positive attitudes were rated towards 1, and more positive attitudes were rated towards 3. So we had a ratio between 1 and 3. So, and these on the vertical X, we have the percentage of falling contours, which are the Basque falling contours, yes. So this is the percentage. As you can see, the minimum percentage is 64. So the percentage of falling contours in all our population is really high. So we must say that probably this is a feature that is already transferred in the Spanish of the Basque Country. But the difference between our speakers had to do probably with the level of the attitude, more or less positive attitude. So what we see here is that speakers that have 1.56 from 211 attitude, so they are in the lower part of the scale, have a less percentage, a lower percentage of falling contours. Whereas the green part of the table, as you can see here, are speakers that have punctuated in the higher part of the scale from 2.22 to 2.56, which is the maximum of the scale. So they had between 77% of their questions ending in a falling contour towards 100%. So several of our speakers, especially two speakers here and another two speakers here, no, sorry, one speaker here, another speaker here, had 100% of falling contours in their questions. So we didn't want to, overwhelm people with these numbers, figures, but we do have numbers, and I mean we have figures in relation to attitudinal values and percentage of falling contours. So I hope I answered your question, Idoia.
Yeah, you did. No, I was wondering a little bit because it's, and of course I have more questions, but I'm going to let other people ask those questions because I can get involved very much. But if there are no other questions, I will continue. I don't know if
I have a question. I mean, thank you so much. It's brilliant, and I have learned so much about the subject. But if I understood properly, I mean, the accent when you speak another language is very much influenced by your perception of this foreign language, yes? Mm-hmm. But then how could we explain that there are people with a very strong accent when you speak a foreign language, although you have a very positive attitude to that language? That's what is not clear to me. I know it's not so easy maybe to answer, but it's something that intrigued me because there are people who have very positive attitude to language learning, that they are immersed in different cultures, but at the same time they keep a very, very strong accent from the first language or the two original languages, although they are very, very positive. And there might be other people who are more neutral, but at the same time have that facility or this advantage to have a neutral accent and adopt the discourse and also the intonation of the local people or the people who have that language as a mother tongue. How we could explain that?
Mm-hmm. Actually, we cannot explain all the situations.
No, okay. It's a matter. It's a way of asking.
Our research focused on long-standing contact situations. So, which is something that is probably different to somebody that arrives to a place. This person is an individual, establishes, good relationships with the community. We cannot explain individual behavior, so we focused on places where degree of contact has been very intense and very long extended in time. So those are the data that we can present here. So in our research, what we found is that attitudes are really related to to a certain point are related to the percentage of transfer that we can find. But as we said, all the population with good or bad perceptions, attitudes toward Basque, showed us 60% of falling contours already, which is something that tells us that probably the degree of contact, the extended degree of contact in time has played also a very important role in the linguistic transfer. So that's something that I should have said it, but and I'm sorry I did not say it. Language attitude is not the only factor that predisposes a person to transfer linguistic features. So contact is one, degree of contact, and we've seen that in our research as well. But there are other factors, for example, what we call the instrumental value of languages, which is part also the is part of the attitudes, but if the language you're learning has more prestige, and that is going to give you more prestige as well, it's going to let you go higher in the society. You may not like the language, you may not like the people, but you're going to try to learn the language in order to make better your situation in the society. So probably language attitudes play an important role, but it's not the only factor that accounts for linguistic transfer. I should have said this, and we've measured language contact as well, no, Gorka? So we said that, you said that too before.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was thinking, an important aspect of our research is that this is going on between two, let's not forget, it's about two varieties of Spanish. Namely, it's not that these people in the Basque Country acquire Basque. No. What we're saying is that the Spanish variety spoken in the Basque Country has features from Basque, but these features are acquired by people who haven't acquired Basque. Okay, so it's like you go to Andalusia, you live there, and you acquire the Andalusian accent. So one thing is probably it's easier to acquire the intricacies, let's say some aspects of this other dialect of your own language than acquiring another language. So what you were referring to, Pedro, I think is more like acquiring language B, not variety B, which is always more demanding and more difficult. You have so many things to look at, so many things to learn, it's completely new to you. I mean, everything, the lexicon, morphology, the syntax, the semantics, everything, plus the intonation, of course. Okay, that's part of the phonetics and phonology. And here, these people have to, let's say, accommodate, or these people have to, acquire the Basque accent, but of these Spanish people, of these Spanish-speaking people. So how do these function? So it's our hypothesis, Magda. So maybe we can say this, right? So probably what happened was that in history, going back centuries and centuries, okay, so there's this Basque-speaking people, okay, in the Basque Country. Spanish is being introduced, but these people have to speak in Spanish. How are they going to sound? They're probably going to sound heavily influenced by Basque. And let's call it new community of Basque speaking people, not knowing Basque, communicate in Spanish with these people with a heavy accent in Basque. And there were two possible solutions, two possible outcomes of this. Let's say, new community wins out and imposes in quote, end quote, start quote and end quote, the Castilian accent, or they say, well, this is the way they speak here, we communicate with them, and even us get these features, because that's how monolinguals who don't know any Basque have these features. That's our hypothesis. Over centuries and centuries and centuries. That's what Magdalena was saying. It's a long-standing contact. What you were referring to is basically like, oops, boom, Chinese, let's learn Chinese. I'm so motivated. Yeah, you are, but you have a challenge in front of you. Right? So there's a difference.
Yeah. Thank you.
I have a comment, question, something in between. As I was listening to you, Magdalena, and you were talking about the different, the language attitudes and how they are demonstrated when we look at the sound, when we think of the status of people who speak the language, the solidarity we feel towards the speakers, the value that we provide, whether we think a language is more or less difficult than another one. I was thinking of ourselves as language instructors, because I think many people who are in this room are language instructors. And I was thinking of the implications of your work on intonation, of the use of the Spanish question influenced by Basque, on how instructors or perhaps learners approach learning Spanish, for example, or approach learning another language, and how those attitudes are either acquired by the learners themselves or are transferred by the instructors to the students. So I was thinking, there is not a question, not a comment, but it made me think of the impact of your work to understand all the implications behind teaching and learning a language, that there are some connotations that go behind the acquisition of an accent or the intonation.
Actually, I think it's, it's a field of research. What you said is that an instructor can transfer his or her attitudes to their learners, to the student. That's something that, I believe firmly is true. We all transfer our attitudes in language, but in gender and anything in any other social field, we transfer our beliefs and our perceptions towards language all day long, every day in class. We do this, and of course, it deserves, a very thorough study, because it can be really, really influential. I really believe so. I mean, I think you're totally right. I mean, it's, it has big consequences, definitely. I agree. I couldn't agree more with you, definitely. Yes. I think it's very important. Yeah.
I don't know if we have any questions from the audience. Everybody's saying that it's very nice talk. There is one. It was not the main topic of your talk, but could you tell us a bit about your thoughts regarding the stability of the Basque accent? Do you find expect intra-individual variation depending on the interlocutor context, that is, failing contour when they are in the BC, but less marked when they are in holidays in Madrid? This person is in phonology, I think.
That's a very interesting question, definitely, and we've dealt with it as well. There is something that is called accommodation theory, and we actually incorporate the accommodation theory into our research as well, because we think that if somebody has a strong accent in the Basque Country, we tend to accommodate to that strong accent, and we tend to imitate that accent, and in order to become more closer to this person. So that's the accommodation theory. And of course, we think the accommodation theory has definitely a role into the stability of the Basque accent. So at this point, the Basque accent is really lively, and it's well maintained, because if you go to Basque Country, you can hear the Basque accent. But at the same time, these people from the Basque Country go to Madrid and they accommodate. We all accommodate. So definitely they will accommodate. But we do not have the contrast if he or she is asking, I think, if this person is asking about whether we have contrasted, data from the Basque Country, from the same person in this context, in the Basque Country, as opposed to this person going to Madrid, we haven't done that. I don't know, Gorka, you may have another answer.
No, I don't have a direct answer to the specific question that this person, MJ, I think, MJ, that's the initials, right? MJ wrote or asked in writing. But we can say, Magdalena, maybe we can say something about the original study that put us in this longer line of research, which is the accommodation of Catalan in Spanish.
Yes.
Right, remember?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
In Mallorca.
In Mallorca. So we have a study in which people from Burgos or Madrid who had moved to Palma de Mallorca, Palma, to live, to work, basically, okay? So in a period of a few months, actually, some of them, they started sounding in Spanish like the Mallorcans talking in Spanish, which may have a heavy accent. Actually, talking about yes/no questions, they also have falls, not like this. So I wouldn't go into details, but they also have falling intonation, where I just showed that, okay, half an hour ago, that the Castilian Spanish, the central one, could rise, right? Okay, so these people from Burgos or Madrid already started showing falling contours like the Mallorcans. And you are like, but you're from Burgos, you're from Madrid, you don't speak Mallorcan Catalan or Central Catalan from Barcelona. You don't. I mean, you actually came here to work. You're not married to any Mallorcan or anything, but they started sounding like them. Okay, how come? Okay, se te pega. It's like you accommodate. But interestingly, also related to accommodation, the people who, because there were some people who showed these faults and the other people resisted and sounded still like Burgalese people or Madrid people. And bingo, there was a correlation, there was a relationship. These people who were happy in Mallorca, in general, let's call it happy or comfortable, they had more of these faults. That's what prompted us to start thinking that, hey, what's going on? I mean, maybe this is general. So when we moved back to the Basque Country for personal reasons, I mean, to work and to live, Magda and I, we decided to do this kind of work with Basque and Spanish. But I can tell you that, yes, so is there a reverse of what you were asking? So people from Madrid or Burgos going to Mallorca starts to sound in Spanish, not knowing Catalan, I emphasize, like them. You see, so you accommodate. So it wouldn't be surprising that I go, I'm from the Basque Country. If I go to Madrid, I don't know if 5 minutes after landing after my plane landing, if I would start sounding like them or anything. But after a while, probably I wouldn't have fewer and fewer Basque features in intonation. I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised. So accommodation, as Magdalena said, is the key factor. You accommodate. It's unconscious. It's unconscious, but it happens.
Yeah.
And it may be helped or facilitated by your positive attitudes. But accommodation happens. That's for sure.
I think this is very interesting. As you were explaining, I mean, with the question and as you were explaining, one phenomena that I always think about for us who live, especially in the US, in the, I would say, Texas area, which we have the US Spanish, and then in our community, we have people from all over the world. I mean, in the sense of they speak Spanish. So we have people from Chile, we have people from Spain. And what I notice what happens is that we tend to lose our regional accents and even the vocabulary. And I think we do it unconsciously. I mean, that's not a conscious thing. So it seems like an international Spanish in a way that is like, it doesn't belong particular to any area. They can say that you're from Spain or you're from Chile because there are some features, like you were saying, that are very particular to the area. But other times people get really confused because somehow we've managed a way of talking to each other that is not quite the Spanish where we come from. And so I don't know how you would call that when you have spaces where there is such a variety of Spanishes in this case, that at the end, everybody doesn't speak. And of course, we communicate well. So I don't know if we need a term for that. I always talk about, I always say that I never had a very, what's it called, linguistic pride or linguistic something, because I change with the people that are next to me. But I wonder if there is something when you have multi-dialects, you know, living together, if there is something happening there as well.
Yeah, I think it's an excellent case of accommodation, you know, to each other. And after that accommodation, you know, everybody uses terms that can be internationally understood. So, I mean, if I were to use a term that is only understandable by people who live next to me here, probably people from Chile or from Mexico, from anywhere else would not understand that term. So what we do is try to accommodate and find a term, an expression that can be understandable by anybody in the group. So that's how, you know, we construct, we end up with what we call koine, which is lengua vehicular, what, you know, that's also a very nice, you know, case of how languages evolved in time. You know, people from different places come together to a place, to a point, and they try to accommodate to each other, and they end up with a new variety, a new language. You know, that's how new languages form. Let's talk about Spanglish. Let's talk about all the koines that we know. So that's an excellent case. I think it's right to the point. Idoia, it's right to the point, to the, you know, to how we are capable of accommodating in order to communicate to each other and to be able to understand each other and get a good relationship, because that facilitates communication, but it also facilitates social relationships, which is, you know, the end point of all our communication. I want to preserve myself in society, myself in the group and with other people. I want to survive, and I want to make myself, you know, part of a group. So that's why I try to communicate, and I try to adapt, and I try to integrate, you know, if we can call that integration. So I think it's an excellent case of accommodation, you know, that it ends up with you know, global Spanish or international Spanish or international English. You know, that's excellent, because it does not belong to any part, and everybody can understand it, and it shades differences between, you know, people from different places. So that's excellent. You know, I love your example. Thank you so much. Thank you. I will use it if you don't mind.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes,
We're sharing. This is a very sharing community.
Thank you. I will use it in my talks. Thank you.
Any more questions from the audience?
No, I don't have any. There's a lot of good comments. Thank you. You know, like they liked it very much. Some people need to leave because it's 8:21, but well, 8:21 here in Spain. Sorry.
Yes. 8:21.
No, Pedro, anything else you want to?
No, only to thank you again for this fantastic talk. As I said already before, I had learned a lot. So interesting. We could speak for ages, because so many aspects. Know the neurology also, how the subconscious influence and everything. And I would like to check the advantage of this forum to inform. Maybe you already know this, the Geolexy tool created by the UNED and the Instituto Cervantes with the varieties, not in intonation, but the lexico. Very practical. So,
yes, thank you.
Geolexy. And so, muchísimas gracias. Ha sido un placer. Y bueno, pues seguimos. Ana y Idoia, thank you so much. Great cooperation. Thank you.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you. Muchísimas gracias, Idoia, Ana, Pedro, Instituto Cervantes. Un placer.
Exacto. Instituto Cervantes, muchísimas gracias, Idoia, Ana.
Venga.
Y todos los que han aguantado.
Sí, todos los que han aguantado.